Hey guys, it's Travis from the Third Gear Speed Shop with another video in our detailing a flathead Ford V8 series. So today we're going to be installing the distributor. This may be a two-part video just because of I may be able to wire it up completely, but it may just be the installing the distributor. We'll see how long it goes. But anyway, also I decided to paint the engine red and the heads also. If you're using aftermarket heads like finned speed parts, finned aluminum heads, you'd probably want to paint those or leave those in aluminum color. But the cast iron heads, I went ahead and painted the same color as the engine, or the block rather. And we'll be doing some detail painting to the rest of this as we move forward. But today we're going to be installing the distributor. And this is the distributor here. It's the helmet style distributor. Runs off the cam and goes into the front just like so. And so what I ended up doing, and you guys might have a different application or different issues, but basically these lower radiator hoses, my distributor was sticking out further than these radiator hoses, and the radiator hoses butt straight up to the radiator. So what I ended up having to do was, I don't know if you can see this good or not, but I ended up having to sand down the back of my distributor to get the distributor to sit closer to the body. So a little bit of a cheat there, but otherwise it would have hit the radiator. So I had to do a little bit of modification to my distributor. You may not have that issue or that situation, but I did. So another thing that I did off camera, and we'll be getting into this later, but as you can see, I hope you can see if it'll focus. It's having a hard time to focus here. But on the top there, my hands are shaky. On the top there, that's where the part, that's how the part came. And the bottom there, as you can see, I've already drilled a hole, and that's where we're going to put our plug wires. So basically the way this works is the 4 plug wires feed into one side of the distributor on both sides, and so that makes it a little bit easier than, if you were to try to drill out say a flat or a small block Chevy, for instance. If you didn't get a pre-wired distributor, you wanted to make your own, makes it a little bit easier to wire flathead in that regard. But there is a bit of a challenge, other challenges you'll have with the flathead. But anyway, and then, so what you'll want to do is, also I've cut some ignition wire here. I'll be painting these black, but I didn't have any black. I just had this yellow color. You want some pretty thin ignition wire to fit inside your distributor. So you're going to be, consolidating all 4 down into one, and then that's going to go into your distributor. So I had this 26 gauge wire here that's black. It's a stiffer wire, and it was just going to be a little too stiff. So you want something a little bit pliable, and this I think this is Model Master ignition wire. Worked really good for that. So I went ahead and cut my ignition wire, and you want to leave them a little bit long because it's always better to, have them too long than too short. So I cut mine about 1.5 inches, something like that, and I cut 8 of them, 4 here, and I've got 4 over there. But before we get into that, I'm going to drill a hole into my block here, and I'm going to also drill and put a pin in the back of my distributor. That's not entirely necessary, but I just like to pin things when I can to give it a nice secure fit. So I'm going to go do that off camera, and I'll be back to show you the results. Okay, we're back. So as you can see in the front of the block, I've drilled a hole right in the center there where the cam would go. And then on my distributor, if I can get it over here, on my distributor, I've just drilled a hole and placed a pin in the back of it, so that now we can just that's more or less where the placement of it's going to be. So I'll do another, you can see it just barely clears the radiator hoses. I may actually have to file the front of it just a little bit to get it to clear, but that's basically how it's going to go. So once we've done that, we can then move on to the plug wires. So like I said before, 4 of your plug wires are going to feed into the distributor. And what I've done, you don't have to do this. You could just, drill a hole to accommodate the 4 wires and, put them in carefully. Just glue them in straight into the distributor there. But what I've done is I drilled a smaller hole and then actually drilled a larger one, because I made these little, this was kind of tedious, and again, you don't have to do this, but I hollowed out, if you could see that, I hollowed out a piece of rod because I didn't have tube that small, and then I left this side, it's not all the way through, because if you can see, this side is still the rod, so I'm going to slip the rod end down into, might have to do this off camera, yeah, I'm going to have to do it off camera. So but basically I just slipped the this little piece of tube that I made into the distributor here, and then all 4 of my plug wires will then go into that. So yeah, it's a little fidgety, but so basically my plug wires are going to go into this little piece of tube I made and be glued inside of there, and to mimic what came with the kit. So they did have, like, if you'll look up pictures of them on the internet, or if you have a way to see them in person, there is like a tube that they all fit into, and then into the distributor. So I've also wrapped the ends of them in tape. You could do that, whatever. Try to avoid twisting them, because they're really not twisted in real life, but however you can get 4 plug wires down into one is the goal here. So I'm going to go ahead and drill this one out, and then just a word of caution: when you're drilling a hole this large into something that small, I usually drill a smaller hole first and then drill the size hole I need. So the smaller hole will act as a pilot for the larger hole. So just a little tip there, which if you're drilling bigger holes into smaller pieces of plastic. So I'm going to go ahead and clip this off and make a hole just like this, and then install these little tubes and show you what that looks like. I'm going to do that off camera, and then when I come back I will show you what that looks like. Alright, stay tuned. Okay guys, so this is what I've come up with. If you can see that there, how those tubes feed into each side of the distributor. Like I said, you know, you don't have to do this step. You could just put the plug wire straight into the distributor, but it's a little bit, I think it'll be a little bit stronger, a little bit sturdier, and it'll also look closer to the real thing. So we're going to detail paint this also, so it'll start to look, you know, obviously a little bit more realistic once we get paint on it. So the next step is to feed our plug wires into each of those tubes, and if you're skipping this step, you can just feed your plug wires straight into the hole you made in the distributor. So I'm going to do that for both sides, and I think then we'll call this video, we'll cut this video and do the next part in another one. So I'm going to put my plug wires in my distributor and then show you what that looks like, and then we'll be done for today. Alright, stay tuned. Okay, so what we've got now are our plug wires fed into each one of those little tubes on each side of our distributor. And just I used the let's see, get this in camera so you can see it a little bit better. I used the CA glue for putting the plug wires into those little tubes, and all of my bare plastic welding and construction is done with the liquid cement. So just to give you guys an idea of the types of, you know, glues that are being used on this project, and then all of my painted, you know, parts will be used with the CA, and the bare plastic is used with liquid cement. So I think what we'll do in the next video is go ahead and wire it up on the head ends, each one of our you know, plugs. But so that is how I'm doing the distributor side. So again, it's a little bit easier than, you know, your typical overhead valve, unless you're using a, you know, pre-wired distributor. But there is a little bit of work involved, and but it's super fun, and I think the results will look pretty cool once we're done. So I'm going to stop the video here, and we'll pick it up on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.